Hello, this is Jane Kearns, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the February-March Polish-American Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay. Let's see. So we have Poland to legislate social media reforms. This is from Newsmark. Poland's Digital Affairs Ministry said it plans to introduce legislation this year aimed at restricting children's access to social media by requiring platforms to verify users' ages when accounts are created. Deputy Digital Affairs Minister Dariusz Sandyski said the proposal would prevent children under 16 from using social media platforms. Writing on social media platform X, he said Poland should cut off, quote, cut off young people aged under 16 from social media, end quote. Under the plan, the users would be required to confirm their age when opening an account, triggering the creation of a digital credential stored in a government-backed digital identity wallet, Sanderski said. He added that Poland is considering, with other European Union member states, testing similar systems, and that the European Commission is working on a harmonized age verification framework across the 27-nation bloc. The proposal follows similar moves elsewhere in Europe after Australia imposed restrictions on social media use for youth under 16. France plans to ban social media for children under 15 beginning in the 2026 school year, while Denmark has also announced plans for age limits. In November, the European Parliament backed a report calling for an EU-wide minimum age of 16 for social media access, with limited exceptions. Sanderski said that the government expects the necessary technical tools to be in place by 2026, or in 2026, making this year, quote, the right time, end quote, to introduce the regulation. The next article is Poles to spend $500 million in military upgrades. Poland is investing about $500 million to expand and modernize U.S. military facilities on its territory, fully funding the upgrades to strengthen NATO's eastern flank. The investment will support roughly 10,000 American troops stationed in Poland and reflects Warsaw's commitment to remain a cornerstone of European security amid shifting U.S. priorities. This cost, we mean about $500 million. The Polish side treats this as an investment in its own security, end quote. Deputy Defense Minister Cezary Tomurski told TVP World, quote, increasing the American presence in Poland is one of the strongest guarantees of security, end quote. The upgrades come as Poland positions itself as NATO's key logistics hub for future peacemaking missions in Ukraine. Unlike permanent U.S. bases in Germany or Japan, Poland hosts mostly rotational forces, except for the forward headquarters of the U.S. Army's V Corps in Poznan. Analysts say investment demonstrates Warsaw's willingness to take on greater responsibility in NATO while encouraging the U.S. to maintain a strong presence in Europe. The next article is Polish citizens returning from UK, Germany in growing numbers. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk highlighted a rising trend of citizens returning from the United Kingdom and Germany, citing better economic opportunities and quality of life. In a video posted on his X account, Tusk described the phenomenon as foot voting, end quote, referencing coverage in the British newspaper Daily Mail. He noted that many Poles who had moved abroad for work are now returning. In late 2025, reports showed 25,000 Poles left the UK over the past year, while only 7,000 arrived, representing the largest decline in migration balance since the Brexit vote. Rising living costs, stricter visa rules, and less competitive labor market were cited as key drivers. Tusk also noted that more Poles are returning from Germany than leaving for work there, according to the data from the German Federal Statistical Office, making a historic shift. The Prime Minister described Poland as an increasingly attractive destination for returning citizens, urging them to come home. This is what we're aiming for. Come back, end quote. There's a picture here of right on the money. It says Lester J., president of the Polish American Numismatic Society, PANS, has honored the American I can't say it, Numismatic Association, ANA, Glenn Smedley Memorial Award, presented to members who advanced the hobby at the grassroots level. The ANA cited Rosick for promoting both his heritage and his love of coin collecting at talks, exhibitions, and workshops. And on page 4 is the rest of the story. Oh, I see. It's a different, okay. PANS President Rosick recognized for promoting Polish numismatics, sorry. Troy, Michigan. At the American Numismatic Association, ANA, 134th World Fair of Money Convention in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Lester J. Rosick, president of the Polish American Numismatic Society, PANS, was honored with the organization's Glenn Smedley Memorial Award for his efforts in building strong and welcoming community both nationally and internationally for those eager to learn about Polish numismatics. Rosick has been a member of PANS since its founding in 1981 and has been its president since 1995. Over the years, PANS has grown to become one of the most respected numismatic clubs in Michigan. It holds 2 major numismatic shows each year. The first held at the American Polish Cultural Center on the third Sunday in February is the largest numismatic club show in Michigan with over 85 dealers. PAN's second show is held in August, 1 week before Labor Day. Both shows are packed with collectors and dealers buying and selling coins, medals, tokens, paper money, numismatic books, and stamps. Profits from the shows are used for club and Polonian scholarships and donations to local charities. While based in Michigan, PANS has members across the globe. Particularly strong is in relationship with the Polish Numismatic Society. The Trojac Coin Club of Toronto and the Windsor Coin Club of Ontario. These organizations have played an important role in helping the Polish American Society grow and in supporting our mission to share knowledge about Polish American, Canadian, and world numismatics, including coins, medals, and paper money. In addition to its shows, last September, PANS organized a successful 10-day educational and historical tour of Poland and the Czech Republic, providing an opportunity to explore history, culture, and coinage firsthand. If you're interested in learning more about Polish American Society or would like to become a member, visit www.pans-club.org. The club meets on the first Saturday of the month, except in June and July, at 12 p.m. at the American Polish Cultural Center located at 2975 East Maple Road, or 15 Mile Road in the Quindry Road in Troy. Back to the first page. Tusk, European leaders issue joint statement on Greenland. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk assured Washington that Europe would oppose any attempts to undermine the essence of NATO by threatening another member. Paris. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk issued a statement together with the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Denmark to respect Greenland's independence following statements by U.S. President Donald Trump expressing his aim to take control of the island. Tusk also assured Washington that Europe would oppose any attempts to undermine the essence of NATO by threatening another member, end quote. Italian, Danish, Spanish, UK, and French leaders, and Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, signed the statement with Tusk. Read in part Only Denmark and Greenland can make the decisions about Denmark and Greenland. Greenland belongs to its people, and it's part of NATO as part of Denmark, as is part of Denmark, as being a part of Denmark, sorry. The joint statement also said all must work with NATO partners like the U.S. to uphold UN Charter principles, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and boundary inviolability. President Trump has long sought Greenland, an independent Danish territory. He believes U.S. control of the island is vital to U.S. interests. We need Greenland for national security reasons, said Trump. Right now, there are Russian and Chinese ships all over Greenland, which I don't believe, but anyway. Senior Nordic diplomats with access to NATO intelligence confirm there are no Russian or Chinese vessels around the island. Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy chief of staff, told CNN Greenland should be part of the U.S., adding, quote, nobody's going to fight the U.S. over the future of Greenland, end quote, because the United States is the power of NATO. Oh, dear. Tusk. Paris to discuss Ukraine with foreign leaders, said Greenland had become an unforeseen and unplanned topic. He reassured Denmark it can count on the solidarity of all of Europe. For Poland, it's clear that no NATO member should attack or threaten another member, said Tusk. I want everybody in Washington to know that any attempts to break up or weaken NATO will not be accepted in probably every European country. However, Tusk stressed that NATO and Poland must make sure that European-American ties, the very foundation of NATO and our security, are not harmed in the coming days and months by any announcements, decisions, or misunderstandings. Tusk has had a tense relationship with the White House since Trump returned last year, and on occasion has publicly criticized him. Poland's right-wing President Karol Nawrocki, however, is friendly to Trump and opposed to Tusk's government. Nawrocki has not commented on U.S. actions in Venezuela or Greenland. His senior security advisor, Sławomir Czenskiewicz, however, called the Caracas strikes a demonstration of America's strength, end quote. After Maduro's detention, Maris Kaminsky, a prominent official from Norway's Law and Justice Party, PIS, warned Tusk he may be next in the U.S. list. He has alleged Tusk is trying to establish a dictatorship in Poland, and Trump may capture Tusk like he did Maduro. Tusk and his coalition members criticized Kaminsky for urging foreign interference against Poland's democratically elected government. They quote, they've stopped believing in their democratic election victories, so they have begun to pray for foreign intervention to overthrow the dictator of Tusk. The prime minister posted on social media, one can't fall lower. Putting the pressure on the U.S. Congress, Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski called on it to weigh in on Trump's growing threats to seize Greenland. The topic of territories of war and peace belong to the U.S. Congress, Sikorski said in Paris, speaking alongside the foreign ministers of France, Germany, and India. I want to know what is the position of the U.S. Congress on Greenland. Sikorski was in Paris for the visit of Premier Indian Foreign Minister Jairus Hankar, but the meeting with his European counterparts was an opportunity to discuss Greenland. And the sources are notes from Poland, New York Times, BBC News, and NPR. Okay, so on this same page, I'll read this as long as we're here. Washington, D.C. At the November 12, 2025 celebration of Poland's Independence Day at the Embassy of the Republic of Poland, Maryland's Honorary Consul of Poland, Richard P. Poremski, was awarded the prestigious General Kazimierz Pulaski Medal. The medal citation reads, end quote, recognition for his many years of contributions to building the prestige of the Polish-American community, for promoting the annual commemoration of the Katyn Massacre anniversary, and for collaborating with Polish-American organizations as honorary consul in Baltimore, Maryland. The medal was given by Polish American Veterans Association. Can't read it. Okay. So the next thing is Drone is the word of the year. This is interesting. Warsaw. The University of Warsaw and Polish Language Foundation competition panel named Drone, D-R-O-N in Polish, the word of the year 2025, according to PAP. Veto, W-E-T-O, and Space, Cosmos, K-O-S-M-O-S, placed second and third. In a public online survey, Space ranked number 1, followed by Drone and Veto. The University and Language Foundation had presented Word of the Year for 15 years. It chooses words that best capture the year's major themes and events. Linguists in the public selected 21 terms from a selection that will occur more often in Polish news in 2025. The list included astronaut, drone, votes, space, apartment, truce, and court. Previous winners include coalition and artificial intelligence. And let's see. Okay, next is Golden Globe winning actress praises Hamnet Polish team. Los Angeles. In her Golden Globe acceptance speech for Hamnet, Irish actress Jessie Buckley thanked the film's Polish crew, singling out key grip Tomasz Sternicki for preparing soup and stews for the cast members. The Chloe Zhao directed film won Best Motion Picture at the Golden Globes after 6 nominations. Buckley, who had previously won a Critics' Choice Award for the same role, emphasized the production's collaborative nature and praising the Polish crew, Irish collaborators, and Zhao's global team. Buckley also credited cinematographer Łukasz Zal and costume designer Małgorzata Turanska for their contributions to the picture. The Polish embassy in Dublin's social media greeting thanked Buckley for such sincere and warm words directed to the Polish team working on the movie Hamnet, end quote. Critics say the film, which dramatizes the family life of William Shakespeare and his wife following the death of their son, Hamnet, has a lasting emotional impression. Several praised Zhao's direction and the teamwork, highlighting the film's capacity to move moviegoers. Source is the Polish Embassy, Dublin. That's everything on that page. So we'll go back to the front page. Okay, Russia seizes control of Polish-American packaging giant, Moscow. Vladimir Putin seized the Russian assets of Polish-American aluminum packaging manufacturer Canpack, placing it under, quote, temporary external management, end quote. It also took control of the Danish insulation giant Rockwool. The move comes into force on January the 13th, 2026, the official publication date of December the 31st, 2025, decree signed by the Kremlin. The Russian Industrial Metal Corporation, Stalimont, took over all shares and assets of Canpack LLC and its packaging giant. Russia's JSC Red, I can't do that. Active Development of Construction Assets acquired 100% of Rockwool LLC and 68% of Rockwool Volga LLC. Canpack, founded in 1992 in Krakow, was a leading aluminum container producer, catering to 30% of Russia's home market. The company has corporate offices and major U.S. manufacturing operations center in Oliphant, Pennsylvania, serving as its North American serving its North American hub, with additional U.S. corporate functions in Wayne, Pennsylvania. The Krakow HQ headquarters focuses on global strategy, while the U.S. offices support the North American market. It has operated plants in Moscow and Rostov since 2010. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Moscow has increasingly seized private firms under temporary administration to fill funding gaps generated by Western sanctions. By 2025, the independent Moscow Times reported that Russia had seized hundreds of enterprises worth over $4 trillion rubles, or 51 billion USD. Genpak is one of the dozens of Polish corporations operating in Russia directly or through dubious subsidiaries. It was listed on Yale University list of shame, along with Poland's chemical trader Macrochem, the pharmaceutical company of Polypharma, and Polish clothing giant LLP, for maintaining a presence in Russia nearly 4 years after Moscow had invaded Ukraine. Rockwool, the world's largest mineral and wool insulation company, entered Russia in the mid-1990s, and owns operations in Moscow, Leningrad, Chelyabinsk, and Tarstan. Okay, so that's that. The quiet power, this is on the front page still too. The quiet power of gratitude, a Polish immigrant's civic gesture from Minnesota to New York, by Paweł Maciag. The New Year's season, a time of reflection and moral reckoning, invites attention not only to public failures and institutional abuses that have dominated headlines in recent weeks, but also gestures that move in the opposite direction, quiet, unpublished acts rooted in personal responsibility rather than calculation. Amid renewed debates about the misuse of public trust, which stories are easily overshadowed. Such stories are easily overshadowed. One of the most extraordinary examples of such a civic act in contemporary American history was performed by a Polish immigrant, Józef Tymińsko. His gesture did not arise from wealth, prominence, nor political ambition, nor was it connected to any organized campaign or communal expectation. It was the result of a solitary moral decision, taken at the end of a long and modest life, shaped by war, displacement, and gratitude toward a country that had offered him refuge and dignity. It was also significant that this story concerns an immigrant who spent most of his life in Minnesota, the very state that in recent weeks has become, among other things, the center of a multi-million-dollar federal investigation into large-scale fraud involving the misuse of public funds by networks operating within the parts of Somali immigrant community. The juxtaposition is unavoidable. It draws attention to a radically different individual moral choices made within the same institutional environment. Placed side by side, these two realities illuminate a deeper question: why some individuals experience public institutions as systems to be exploited, while others treat them as moral framework towards which they feel a sense of responsibility and gratitude. The Polish immigrant story, rooted in Minnesota and culminating in an act of generosity toward New York, served as a counterpoint to contemporary narratives of extraction and abuse, and inviting reflection on personal agency and civic loyalty in an age of eroding public trust. Although Joe Tymińsko spent most of his adult life far from New York, his relationship with the city was foundational and symbolic. It began with the very point where his American life started. From Ellis Island, Tymińsko chose an exceptional way to express his gratitude to the city of New York, even though in practical terms his life was only loosely connected to the nation's largest metropolis. His relationship with New York was primarily symbolic rather than residential or economic. It was there, on Ellis Island, that his life in the United States began between 1892 and 1954. Approximately 12 million immigrants passed through this small island, which became the gateway to the America and the beginning of a new life for generations of newcomers. Ellis Island represented uncertainty and hope, fear and promise, and above all, the possibility of dignity after displacement. For many immigrants, including Tymińsko, it was marked entry not only into a new country, but into a new moral and legal order. War and the choice of a new life. Józef, known in the United States as Joseph Tymińsko, was born in Poland in 1915. The cataclysm of the Second World War consumed his early adulthood. During conflict, he endured the brutality of both German and Soviet prisoners of war camp, experiencing hunger, violence, and systemic humiliation. These experiences left a permanent mark on his life and worldview. After the war in the late 1940s, he faced a decision shared by many displaced Europeans, whether to return to a homeland transformed by violence and political repression, or to seek a new beginning elsewhere. Temesco chose emigration. Around 1950, he arrived in the United States through Ellis Island, carrying little more than a determination, the memory of trauma, and hope for a dignified existence. A modest life in Minneapolis is the next bullet. In the early years of his life in America, Temesco took on various forms of manual labor. For a time, he worked on maintenance projects at the Statue of Liberty, an experience that deepened his emotional connection to the American ideals and symbolic language of freedom. The irony was striking. A survivor of totalitarian camps helped maintain one of the world's most enduring symbols of liberty. Eventually, he settled in Minneapolis, where he worked for decades as a handyman and carpenter. He lived in exceptionally modest life, quiet, frugal, and governed by discipline and routine. Neighbors later remembered him as reserved but reliable, honest, and hardworking. He repaired discarded items, avoided unnecessary expenses, and lived far below his means. Few people around him knew that over many years he had been carefully saving money and quietly accumulating a substantial estate. He had no children and no close relatives. As he aged, this absence of heirs forced him to reflect on the fate of his savings and the meaning of what he had accumulated. Then came 9/11, a moral decision. The terrorist attacks of September the 11th, 2001, shook Temesco profoundly. According to accounts later cited by New York City officials, he reacted with deep emotion for the destruction and loss of life. For him, New York was not simply a distant city on the East Coast. It was a place where his American life began, the first embodiment of safety and order after years of war and captivity. In the final weeks of his life, he amended his will, leaving his entire estate, approximately $1.4 million, to the city of New York. He died October the 4th, 2001, at the age of 86, shortly after making this decision. In February 2003, New York City Department of Parks and Recreation publicly announced the donation, describing it as one of the most moving acts of civil solidarity in the aftermath of September the 11th. Next headline is Columbus Park in Chinatown. According to official statements from New York City authorities, the funds were primarily used to modernize the sports field at Columbus Park, an important recreational space located in the heart of Chinatown and heavily used by the local community. This investment not only an infrastructural dimension, but also a social one. It supported the rebuilding of urban fabric. It helped strengthen community ties in a neighborhood particularly affected by the consequences of 9/11 attacks. At the same time, part of the funds supported the city's Daffodil Project, an initiative conceived as a symbolic form of remembrance for the victims of the attacks and expression of solidarity with the city during a period of mourning and recovery. As part of the project, hundreds of thousands of daffodils were planted in parks, near schools, public institutions, and other urban spaces, creating a living and annually renewed memorial. Blooming each spring, the daffodils symbolized renewal, hope, and the continuity of life after tragedy. The project was communal and inclusive, engaging New York residents, students, social organizations, and volunteers, demonstrating that the memory of September the 11th could be present in the city's everyday landscape. New York City officials emphasized that Temesco's gift had not only financial value, but above all symbolic significance. It expressed gratitude rooted in the immigrant experience, a sense of civic responsibility towards a society that enabled him to rebuild his life after war and forced displacement. This story shows that immigrant integration is often expressed not through declarations, but through concrete actions undertaken for the common good. The next headline is The Quiet Patriotism of a Pole Who Chose America. Temesco never sought publicity or recognition. His life and final decision remain a remarkable testimony to the quiet patriotism of a Pole who chose America as his new home. At a time when migration was often reduced to political or economic problems, this story recalls another dimension of immigration, of gratitude, loyalty, and a moral bond with the country that became home. Another headline, A Forgotten Gift. Research into this case also revealed a less obvious but significant aspect of Temesco's legacy, the gradual fading of the institutional memory of his act. In correspondence with local authorities, Community Board 3, it was noted that while modernization of the Columbus Park field, particularly the installation of synthetic turf, which was controversial at the time, was remembered, detailed, and information about the source of funding and the existence of a commemorative plaque honoring the donor had not been preserved. The circumstances illustrate how even exceptional acts of civic gratitude can disappear from public awareness if they're not systematically documented and recalled. Temesco's legacy remains one of the most moving and extraordinary examples of a civic gesture in the history of the contemporary U.S., expressed not in words but in a lasting contribution to the common good. This text is also an attempt to recover that memory and restore its rightful place in the narrative of immigrant experience and civic responsibility. Expressions of gratitude are due to attorney William Wangenstein and his assistant Cindy Herman of Minneapolis for their selfless assistance in preserving the memory of Temesco and the artifacts associated with his life. It also deserves a special mention that the attorney representing the estate, in accordance with Temesco's wishes, scattered his ashes over Ground Zero. This place became a symbol not only of tragedy, but of solidarity and rebirth. It says there's a picture here. The cremated remains of Joe Temesco was scattered at Ground Zero, Lower Manhattan, in a private act of commemoration facilitated by attorney Wangenstein. This article forms part of advanced research devoted to the legacy of Joseph Temesco. The research is being carried out under scholarly grant awarded by Mercy University, New York. Dr. Pavel Marquez is a former diplomat and journalist, is a senior lecturer at the International Relations Diplomacy Program at Mercy University, Manhattan. Let's see, I think that's all that's on that front page. I think we've read everything on the front page, so we'll go to the second page. Okay, this is editor's desk. The ball's in Europe's court. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, end quote, said the Spanish-American philosopher George Santayana in his 1905 work, The Life of Reason. The line has been borrowed and paraphrased by many great thinkers, including Winston Churchill. It's being cycled again, this time by Polish foreign policy analysts who said Europe must restore its power or risk becoming a subordinate area of influence. Malgorzata Bonaskova, director of the Center for International Relationship Foundation, CSM, a think tank located in Warsaw, contends the world is already entering an era of brutal rivalry among great countries for areas of influence, resources, and technical supremacy. She stated that the U.S. military operation in Venezuela, culminating in President Nicolas Maduro's detention by the United States, ought to serve as a clarion call for the European Union. She informed Poland's PAP news agency the incident indicates a wider transition away from rules-based international order. Quote, the epic of a multilateral world and the United States as a custodian of global order founded on international law and institution has concluded, end quote, she stated. Her words echo those of Salzburg Global Fellow Marco Overhaus, who has an op-ed piece in Salzburg Global, said the era of American power is just about over. Overhaus, the author of Big Brother Gone, Europe and the End of Pax Americana. Frankfurter Allgemeine Buch, 2025, said the pillars of the Pax Americana, military credibility, economic openness, democratic values, are weakening and may not endure. He also said growing U.S. unpredictability and global power shifts are undermining America's role as Europeans' reliable security guarantor. Thirdly, which is where Bonakowski comes in Overhaus said Europe must reduce its dependence on the U.S. and prepare for greater strategic and security autonomy. Bonikowska says Washington has delineated its own territory. She stated that the Venezuelan operation aimed to expel Russia and China from the nation, conveyed that the United States will employ any means it considers essential to uphold its dominance in its zone of influence. In that, Europe risks are being marginalized, she said. They consider China and Russia, yet they neglect Europe, said Bonikowska, contending the continent now must determine if it can assert itself as an independent power. Two scenarios, she says. She presented two scenarios. Initially, Europe restructures itself around the European Union form that she termed a Europe of power, emphasizing strength in four critical domains: the economy, technological advance, control of vital resources, and military might. In the second scenario, Europe transforms into a sphere of influence for an alternative power, as she characterized it, as a revitalized concert of powers, end quote, making neutrality increasingly difficult to maintain. Bonickawa said Poland comprehends the peril due to its historical position situated between Germany and Russia. She said for Western Europe, the situation is more psychological by challenging to comprehend, contending that it has not been within anyone's era of control for about 400 years. To mitigate strategic dependency, Bonikowska asserted Europe must continue supporting Ukraine, enhance weapons production, recalibrate expenditure priorities, and strengthen collaboration in sectors that influence power, particularly defense, technology, and access to raw resources. She contended that this did not need transforming the European Union into a singular superstate, but may instead result in a more flexible, quote, confederation, end quote, characterized by enhanced collective governance in essential domains and reduced external reliance. Bonikowska criticized what she terms Europe's diminished capability for strategic governance, advocating for reforms to reinstate the stability to make long-term decisions. She proposed that Europe contemplate options inspired by ancient Greece, where wartime strategies were designated with exceptional authority, noting that this does not necessarily have to be a single individual, end quote. If all this sounds familiar, it should. Maybe time for Europe, and hopefully Washington will pay attention before it's too late. Okay, also on that page on the editor's desk, the last chapter. This month we begin the closure of PAG's bookstore. Born from urging of Cleveland's late Thad Cook, the bookstore was established with the mission to educate Polish Americans about history and culture. Over the past 40 years, tens of thousands of books and Polish heritage items made their way into the homes of our readers. While the idea is still relevant, economic realities have made the operation cost ineffective. When it started, the internet for home use was just an idea. Today, Polish Americans have access to thousands of titles in print and digital format. Many publishers and authors who once depended on Polonia's media to get the word out now have their own websites. Most offer their books directly through Amazon, which has an astronomical advantage over PAG's website. Ditto for the direct sales through Etsy, Facebook, and other platforms. The nail in the bookstore's coffin was our inability to obtain 2026 calendars from Poland, once the cash cow of the undertaking. Because of tariffs, an acceptable profit margin on the calendars would have doubled the price to our readers. Because of limited stock, orders for the remaining inventory will be taken by telephone. Only first come, first serve. Please call Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. EST. The PAG will continue to offer Christmas wafers, the oblotki, for Christmas, as well as butter and chocolate lambs molds for Easter. Okay, now the Kosciuszko Foundation celebrates 100th and is honored by Poland, New York. The Kosciuszko Foundation, established in 1925, celebrates its centennial as a leading institution connecting Poland and the U.S. through education, culture, and scholarship. Founded by Mierzwa as a living monument to Tadeusz Kościuszko, the foundation has supported generations of scholars, artists, cultural initiatives, becoming the world's largest Polish-American educational and cultural institution. On October the 23rd, 2025, Warsaw's Palace of the Republic hosted the foundation's 100th anniversary gala, attended by Polish leaders, former U.S. Ambassador Mark Brzezinski, and representatives of universities and cultural institutions. The foundation received several of Poland's highest honors, which included Senate of the Republic of Poland Medal, the Gold Medal for Merit to Culture, Gloria Artis, and the University of Warsaw Medal. Alex Strozinski was awarded the Commander's Cross of the Order of Merit, which recognizes outstanding service to Polish-American relations and is one of the nation's top state honors. On October the 27th, the Jagiellonian University presented the foundation with its silver medal, quote, plus ratio quam vis, end quote, honoring its commitment to cross-cultural education and advancement of academic collaboration. Speaker Kidwa-Blonska praised the foundation for strengthening ties between Poland and its diaspora, while President Nowacki highlighted its role in promoting Polish culture abroad. Rooted in New York but reaching globally, the Kosciuszko Foundation continues its mission to foster transatlantic understanding, scholarship, and cultural excellence. Mark Skolmowski, President and Executive Director of the Foundation, welcomed guests to the gala in Warsaw. He oversees roughly $2 million in scholarships and grants awarded annually for educational exchanges between the United States and Poland. Advisors to the President of the Republic of Poland, Joseph Kasbryk, presented former KF President Alex Strozinski with the Commander's Cross of the Order of Merit of Republic of Poland for his dedication for promoting Polish culture in the United States. Nice. Okay, PHA conference held in Chicago. Chicago, the 2026 Polish American Historical Association, PAHA, conference took place February the 8th to the 9th, with sessions held in the downtown Hilton. The award ceremony and banquet were held in the Polish Museum of America. Presiding over the ceremony was First Vice President Iwona Fields, President Karen Majewski, and Museum President Richard Ossiany. They offered opening remarks. Polish American Journal Culture editor Stas Kimsix was a recipient of Creative Arts Award, an award-winning director, choreographer, folk ethnographer, dancer, actor, writer, journalist, and historian. Kimsix was devoted a lifetime to the preservation and celebration of the arts and Polish culture. From acclaimed international productions to folklore scholarships, journalism, and the founding of the Lublin Polish Song and Dance Ensemble, Luminosity, something like that. This is the first recognition I've received from American Polonia, and it carries deep meaning for me, he said. I grew up Polish. The traditions and pride of the Poland were woven into me by my parents and grandparents. My life in the arts has always run parallel to my fascination with Poland, its culture, history, and resilience. Other awardees include Miroslav Hyman Award for her career with Chicago Public Library, Oscar Halecki Prize, Dr. Margaret Miguel, editor of Poles, Polonia, and Quest for Liberty, the Stalny Civic Achievement Award, Małgorzata Kot, Managing Director of the Polish Museum of America, and Lucia Mikorowski Kopek, educator, Chicago Public Schools, Irene Franzik, Paul Dawid, Radycki, activist in Polish American Congress of Wisconsin. The Pastek Prize, Dr. Anna D. Kirchman, for her article, Performing Pierogi. That's interesting. Amigas Apollonia Award, Helen Holmgren, who has published widely in Polish literature, theater, and popular culture and film. And the James S. Pula Distinguished Service Award, Neil Pease, Professor Emeritus of History at the University of Wisconsin. The conference opened with Jan Lorry's and Małgorzata Kot's presentation, quote, "The Polish Museum of America's Past, Present, and Future," end quote. Daniel Pigorelski led a walking tour of the Wicker Park neighborhood, home to the Polish Triangle, once the center of the world's Polonia and for more than a century the largest Polish population outside of Poland. A special remembrance was dedicated to Thaddeus Gromada. The conference sessions included contributing to American Polonia, Polish marks on the land, gender journeys. Another one is World War I and shaping a Polish diasporic identity, witness to war, Chicago is a Polish town, and dividing lines, common ground, and being Polish across space, time, and language. The Anna Sosnowska University of Warsaw presented Polish Americans in city of Chicago. Benjamin Bax, Swansea University, University of Central Oklahoma, delivered a dynamic presentation titled The Superfans of Grabowski Town, Polish American Identity and Sports. Additional presenters included Ann Gornak, Paul Rilnikwitz, Donald Pinkos, Aloysius Mazeski, Edward Moskal, Morolska Kopek, Angela, and a whole bunch of other people. Next year's conference will take place in New Orleans, January the 6th to the 7th to the 10th, 2027. For more information, visit www.polishamericanstudies.org. Okay, now we go on to another Winona Polish Museum refines name to reflect the focus. Winona, Minnesota. Reflecting its 46-year commitment to Polish culture, the Kazubian Culture Institute and Polish Museum has updated and simplified its name to become the Polish Cultural Center and Museum. The name change reflects the expanded use of its Morrison Annex as a community gathering space for both Minnesota Polonia and the broader Winona community. Remain the Kazubian capital of America, a tagline adopted by our late founder, Father Breza, who first pioneered by late 19th century Polish leaders in Winona. We have historic roots and deep ties to this northern region of Poland. It makes us unique among Polish institutions in the U.S., said Eric Lippman, president and chair of the board of directors. We're also a regional destination in Winona that is open to all. Since the formation of Poland in 966, Polish culture has been a multifaceted and rich tapestry of interwoven ethnic identities that include Kazubian, Lemko, Choral, Silesian, Mazovian, Jewish, and Pomeranian traditions. Through the centuries, Poles have also enjoyed deep relationships with the surrounding cultures of Ukraine, Lithuania, Slovakia, Moravia, Bohemia, and others. The new museum name celebrates the positive aspects of shared heritage, and Winona's Polish presence has begun in the late 1850s. A goal is to create a greater understanding within the broader Winona community of the unique dimensions and contributions of Polish culture. We own and operate the only independent Polish-focused gathering space in Minnesota and are one of the only handful of Polish museums west of the Mississippi second only to the Polish Heritage Center in Texas in scale, said Mark Dillon, board secretary. The new name, as well as a simplified museum statement being published in our website, represents the first fruits of a broad-level strategic planning process that began in May. Lippmann explained, this process has provided new energy to the Polish Cultural Center and Museum and has since garnered additional donated resources that will keep the museum relevant and effective as we approach our 50th anniversary in 2029. This past year's projects have included a restoration of a Solidarity banner that hung in the shipyard at Gdansk during the early 1980s, signed by the world leaders of that era and Pope John II. In the year ahead, in addition to our successful Tasty Apple Festival, the first Sunday in October, May the 3rd, Polish Constitution Day festivities, and high school level student ambassador exchange program with Poland, the Polish Cultural Center and Museum is planning a new potato pancake breakfast, developing its exhibit space, and making interior infrastructure improvements within the museum. For more information, call about the museum events and/or to schedule a group tour. Visit the museum's website at www.polishmuseumwinona.org. Let's see. This is Academia. COPAC named CCSU Blue Was Chair. New Britain, Connecticut. Central Connection Connecticut State University appointed Dr. Carolina Kopak to the Stanislaus Bilwas Endowed Chair in Polish and American Studies. Kopak received PhD in history from Yale in 2024, concentrating in modern Eastern Europe and Russia. Her dissertation, quote, a microcosm of civic action, the Kolony Letny for Warsaw's failed and impoverished children, Christian and Jewish, 1882 and 1922, end quote, examined grassroots civil involvement and intercommunal cooperations in late imperial Poland. She has published peer-reviewed articles, book introductions, and public comments in English and Polish on historical memory and cultural identity. She's worked with Polish migrants and refugees and organized humanitarian programs for at-risk scholars outside of academia. For more on Blue's Endowed Chair, visit www.ccsu.edu/Polish Studies / Foreign students in Polish universities, Washington, D.C. The American Association of College Registrars and Admissions Office report 85,000 foreign students from 189 countries studying in Poland. Over 7% of all students, Ukraine, 38,473, and Belarus, 9,739, account for over half Poland's 85,000 international students. Asian numbers, including India, 2,563, there's a fold in the paper, and China, 1,609, are also rising. Most Western students were from Spain, 1,574, Germany, 1,435, and Norway, 1,321, Sweden, 753, and the United States, 692. It's surprising to see the 692 and see India, which seemed quite different, 2,563. Oh. Anyway, upcoming conferences. April the 24th, Kosciuszko Conference, West Point, New York. John Paul II, Reagan, Gorbachev, and the end of the Cold War will be the main themes. For more, email Anthony Bajek at ajbajdek@comcast.net. June the 12th to the 24th, the 10th World Congress in Polish Studies, sponsored by the Polish Institute of Arts and Science in America, PIASA, will take place at the University of Łódź in Poland. Learn more at piasa.org. June the 22nd to the 25th, Warsaw will host the International Forum of Young Scholars on Eastern European Jewry. For details, visit https //nevzlincenter at hij.ac.il/forum-young-scholars or email merkaznev at savion .huji.ac.il, period. September the 16th to the 18th, Polish Association for American Studies Conference, Morphing America, end quote, University of Szczecin, Poland. A call for papers has been posted. Details at https://paas.org.pl/. Okay, so that is all for these pages. And I have room for one small, I need a small article because I'm just about finished. Support for the PAJ Press Fund. The press funds are not tax deductible. Make a deductible contribution to the newspaper. Donations may be made to the Polish American Journal Foundation, but must be marked for PAJ operating expenses. If you have any questions, call us at 1-800-422-1275 or 716-312-8088. Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock to a.m., to 3 p.m. You may also email us at info@polamjournal.com. In 1978, a volunteer fundraising campaign was launched by a group of loyal readers of the Polish American Journal entitled, quote, "We love the PAJ Press Fund," end quote, in order to help cover rising postage, material, and production costs. Today, donations to the PAJ Press Fund are used to support our reader services, parentheses, postage, telephone, internet, research, etc., in parentheses, provide news clippers with stamps, envelopes, cover extraordinary expenses in producing the paper, and to provide stipends to non-staff writers requesting remuneration for published works. The Polish American Journal is not a profit-making venture. It's published as a private public service, end quote, for the American Polonia. Donations to the fund will be acknowledged in the paper, otherwise directed by the contributor. Chicago. White Eagle to be replaced by Apartments, by Geraldine Ballot Coleman, Chicago. 1947, Ted Presblow opened his banquet business in Chicago and moved it to its popular Niles location. White Eagle is not only a banquet hall with 1,500 person capacity, but also a Polish restaurant where you could dine in or pick up takeouts, including White Eagle's famous mushroom barley soup. Through the years, it's become vital to the Chicago Polish and Polish American community. Its popular Milwaukee Avenue location was convenient for funeral receptions, milestone events such as baptisms, birthday, bridal, and wedding receptions, charitable events, and club meetings. When Presblow passed away in 1992, his 6 children took over the White Eagle, but they decided to sell the business in 2015 to Mario Ferraro, whose family founded the Victoria Banquets back in 1937. Now the 70,000 square foot facility is set for demolition and will no longer be a hub for Chicago area Polonia. The new owner, Noah Properties, plans to build 354 apartments on the 7 acres that include the White Eagle Banquet Hall. Bart Brzezinski, president of Noah Properties, plans to start demolishing the restaurant in January 2026 with a goal of completing the construction project by late 2027. 2027. Blah. The new residential development will include townhouse clusters and 4 mid-rise buildings designed by Chicago's Jonathan Split Architects. Przemski, a native of Poland and former Niles resident, has received Niles Village zoning approval for his plans and will include a public park, tenant amenities such as rooftop terraces, and a pool. He also plans to build a new restaurant along Milwaukee Avenue. Niles officials have also approved his application for public assistance because of public benefit associated with the proposed development. That sounds very nice. The Polish Arts Club Christmas Luncheon. We don't need to read that. It's passed. I think we pretty well covered everything. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the February-March 2026 issue of the Polish American Journal. Your reader has been Jane Kearns. I wish you a good week, and thank you for listening. Stay warm.